Podcasts are hot right now. How do I know? Well, you're listening to one right now, aren't you? But you might be wondering, how on earth do I get my voice out there and start my own podcast? It all seems so intimidating. Between hosting and platforms and monetization, it can get real complicated real quick. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We started this podcast over 2 years ago, not knowing clue one on how to do it. So how do we do it? We did it with Anchor. Anchor is the free podcast app with creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on all the platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And everybody likes money, right? Well, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go right now, download the free Anchor app, or go to Anchor FM to get started. It's the eCommerce Minute, your daily dose of e-commerce, tech, and retail news with your host, John Suder, Bart Mroz, and Brittany Blackman. The eCommerce Minute is a production of SUMO Heavy, a digital commerce consulting firm located in Brooklyn, New York, and Philadelphia. Find us on the web at sumoheavy.com. It's eCommerce Minute episode 664.
In today's episode, new bill could make eCom companies liable for counterfeit goods.
We've been talking a lot about fake goods lately. Between the stories we've done on companies like Rent the Runway and the ongoing criticism of Amazon's vetting system, it's been a hot topic. But there may be some justice on the horizon. A bipartisan group of lawmakers has unveiled legislation that would hold e-commerce companies like Amazon or eBay liable for counterfeit goods sold on their platforms. The legislation comes as U.S. firms struggle to combat the sale of fake goods online. The Shop Safe Act of 2020, co-sponsored by 4 House members, outlines a series of steps that e-commerce platforms must take to prevent the sale of knockoffs by third-party sellers on their platforms. E-commerce companies that fail to take these steps can be held liable for the sale of counterfeits, a move that would shift the burden onto the internet marketplaces. Titled, quote, "Stopping Harmful Offers on Platforms by Screening Against Fakes in E-commerce," end quote, the proposed Shop Safe Act would establish trademark liabilities for companies that sell counterfeits that pose a risk to consumer health and safety. The proposal will also require online platforms to establish best practices to vet sellers, remove counterfeit listings, and remove sellers who repeatedly sell counterfeits. This is so online marketplaces take steps necessary to prevent the continued sale of counterfeits by third-party sellers or impose contributory liability for their actions. Sucharita Kodali, analyst with Forrester Research, a market research company, notes that while the legislation is needed, it only addresses a fraction of the counterfeit products sold online. She said, quote, "The legislation is primarily to regulate counterfeit food and health items and baby products. I honestly don't know why lawmakers are stopping at harmful products. These are the worst case scenarios, of course, but all counterfeits should be stopped," end quote. For anyone who's been burned while buying something online only to receive fake goods in the mail, the Shop Safe Act definitely seems like a step in the right direction. And as Gizmodo points out, with 2 Democrats and 2 Republican representatives sponsoring the bill, it seems protecting Americans from buying counterfeit products is one of the few things that both parties can agree on. Amen.
Oh, thank God.
So the end of this script here, you say it only covers certain things, so it's a good intended bill, but it's not as far-reaching as it appears.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not all-inclusive.
Okay, well, it's a good step because we've all heard the horror stories of fake goods. You've pointed out, some people sell bad makeup. There was that horrific story from China about the baby formula. It wasn't actually baby formula. It was like sawdust and pesticide mixed together. Sorry.
God.
At things like that. That's not funny, actually. It's pretty scary. And I think most consumers are wary when they see things sold online. They look, that is why I think name brands do so well. Mm-hmm. Because there's this level of trust. Well, it's like, well, Clorox wouldn't sell me something fake. We've known Clorox forever, but if it says, K brand, we don't know. Is it just water and something else?
Yeah, which is why those products are marked up in the first place.
Well, it's the marketing tax. And in some instances, I tell my girlfriend that I'm like, sometimes it's worth to pay a little bit more. You save some money and you end up throwing it in the trash, don't you?
Do you hear that, parents? They used to yell at me when I was growing up because I had quote unquote expensive taste and only wanted the name brand things. But it's because I didn't want to get duped. I just don't like to be duped.
Right. You want the Lucky Charms. You don't want the Happy O's or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think cereal is one thing where it's like, it's the same product and you're just marking out. But in this instance, we're talking about strictly counterfeit goods and counterfeit food, or I just can't even imagine. It's just really scary.
Yeah. I have to think, like, besides like the quality of the product as far as how well it works, but like the hygiene of counterfeit products like sends a shiver down my spine. Like, I can't even imagine the conditions that these counterfeit products even go to, or like what I'm touching. It just, oh my goodness.
So taking it a step further, what in that dream world we imagine where all counterfeit goods will be banned from these marketplaces. I don't know how they'd ever actually do that, but I think this bill is a good step in that direction. I think the bigger platforms will give a little pushback. They'll say, we couldn't possibly police every single item on our store. But I think there needs to be some headway made in that direction, because a lot of people are getting ripped off. It's like you buy Nikes and it's like you open the box and it says, it's not Nike, it's Mike. I got a pair of Mike sneakers.
Which is like, ugh. And then you're like, whatever, like it'll still fit on my feet, but then you get roasted by your friends and made fun of. So it's
and just the straight up knockoffs. I mean, the quality of the knockoffs are so good these days that most people, unless you are a discerning consumer that knows, this brand puts a zipper this way and the lining is a certain way. Like I told this story before. My mother used to collect Dooney and Birch handbags, and she could go to a flea market and see who were the counterfeit sellers, because she knew that Dooney and Birch had a certain tag, they had a certain zipper, they had a certain lining. And she finally stopped doing it because everything that she was finding was all counterfeit. Like, she just stopped doing it, because you go to a flea market or a small seller and it's like they're all just well-produced knockoffs.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I had a ton growing up. I'd go to the auctions and like buy Chanel earrings, and I'd be like, heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Look at me. I'm 11 years old and I have Chanel earrings, you pores.
Pores.
Sorry. But yeah, they're getting good.
Yeah, they are getting good. We did actually another couple podcasts about some detection methods. There's ones where it's got some sort of, boy, I wish I would have done a little research before I did this, because this podcast was like 2 years ago. And there was something that is produced in the actual threading of the materials, and using a certain camera can detect if this is the actual threads from the goods seller or the counterfeiter. It's a shame that we have to go that far just to sell things, but that's the world we live in. So.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's cool.
Yeah, no, it is really neat. All right, so I'm going to read a little quote from Amazon. Amazon strictly prohibits counterfeit goods. In 2018 alone, Amazon invested more than $400 million to fight fraud, counterfeit, and other forms of abuse. In 2019, we launched new programs including Project Zero and IP Accelerator, expanded existing programs like brand registry and transparency, and piloted new innovations like the utility patent neutral evaluation process. Just last month, we committed to reporting all confirmed counterfeiters to law enforcement to help them build stronger criminal cases that can hold counterfeiters accountable. We are actively fighting bad actors and protecting our store, and we will continue to work with brands, government officials, and law enforcement. End quote. So, I mean, it has to be done. It just has to be done, because counterfeiting is so easy to do, and because you have that disconnect of a shopper who says, that picture looks good, crosses your fingers, and it shows up at the door and it's a knockoff. It's just, we have a quote here from someone. Who's the quote from? Bear, somebody named Bear. We have a quote from someone that says, counterfeiting is easier to do online for the simple reason that the blessing and the curse of online shopping is that you don't have physical contact with what you were buying at point of sale. Couldn't have said it better. Mm-hmm. When you have something in hand, it is usually easier to confirm if it looks genuine than when you were trying to enlarge a picture of it with your fingers on the screen of your phone. True that. Especially now that mobile shopping is more popular than desktop shopping.
Yep.
All right, we're going to close this one out. A little stat time. The countries most affected by counterfeiting in 2016 were the United States, whose brands or patents were concerned by 24% of the fake products seized, followed by France at 17%, Italy 15%, Switzerland 11%, and Germany 9%. Fake goods accounted for 3.3% of global trade in 2016, according to the OECD. The Department of Homeland Security reported seizures of counterfeit products at U.S. borders have increased tenfold over the last 2 decades. And finally, small parcels sent by post or express courier are a prime and growing conduit for counterfeit goods. Small parcels accounted for 69% of total customs seizures by volume over 2014 to 2016, 57% via post and 12% via courier, up from 63% over the 2011-2013 period. Well, they're trying. That's all I can add to that.
Yeah.
All right. Got anything else?
Nope.
All right. That's your e-commerce minute for today. We'll see you on the internet tomorrow.
That's it for today's show. If you like the show, do us a favor and subscribe or leave us a review on iTunes. And don't forget, you can now listen to the e-commerce minute on your Amazon device. Just add e-commerce minute to your flash briefing. And finally, if you have a comment or suggestion or just want to say hi, find us on social media at SUMO Heavy.